everyone, and welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe. That is the Hall of Famer, Cris Carter. This is Nick Wright, and we want to wish you and yours a very happy Memorial Day. Fox Sports honors the many military men and women who have given their lives while serving our country on this important day of remembrance. So we hope everyone's having a pleasant and an enjoyable and a very safe Memorial Day weekend.
Absolutely. And if you're home from work today, we hope we help you get your day off to a good start this Memorial Day.
Absolutely. I have to start the show by saying this, Nick. For 85 days, Cece and I sat here and we asked you if you were worried about the Cleveland Cavs. And for 85 days, you looked us square in the eye, and we thought you were lying to us when you said, nope, not a worry in the world because of one guy.
Because of one guy. I think I said I will be worried if at any point they have 3 losses against them in a series, and they're down double digits. Now, that happened midway through the second quarter.
Yes, it did.
But they were able to pull out of it. What a game last night.
What a game. I am genuinely happy for you, my partner.
Well, I mean, I didn't play, but thank you.
Okay, we'll take that back. One small moment of weakness. Now let's get back to strength. Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Cavs, Celtics. LeBron James looking for his 6th straight Game 7 win. Wouldn't be easy. They were without Kevin Love, and the Celtics were 10-0 at home. But the Celtics quickly found out that stats like home court advantage don't matter when it comes to LeBron James. 35, 15, and 9. LeBron playing all 48 minutes as the Cavs pulled off the big upset, 87-79, handing Boston their only playoff home loss this season. Here is LeBron on his 8th straight finals.
We've been counting out for a long time this season, and you know, right around the trade deadline, no matter if we made a trade or not at that point in time, I kind of just switched my mindset on saying let's get the most out of this season I can, and I'm determined to get the most. I'm trying to squeeze this orange so there's no more juice left, and this is a heck of an accomplishment for our ball club. You know, without our all-star power forward as well for basically 2 games, this team was undefeated in the postseason, and for, at home, and for us to do this and for me to be able to lead these guys, it's a treat.
Our goal going into the series was to make him exert as much energy as humanly possible, and try to be as good as we can on everybody else who are good players. And you know, for the most part, I thought we were pretty good at that. And you know, multiple games now in TD Garden held him under 100. You know, 3 games in the 80s, but he still scored 35. It's a joke.
Hilarious. It's actually very funny. Look, LeBron said it. LeBron said we squeezed as much as we possibly could out of this. With that lineup and everything they went through this season, for him to be able to come out and do that, it really was squeezing as much as you could out of that horse. Cece, how were LeBron and the Cavs able to win Game 7 in Boston?
Well, Jeff Green. You got to give Jeff Green a lot of credit. With Kevin Love being knocked out early, 6 minutes into game number 6 in Cleveland, the amount of quality basketball that he played in Game 6 and Game 7, it's probably the best $2 million Dan Gilbert in the front office ever spent. He signed a $2 million contract for a 1-year deal with the Cavs, played on a lot of different teams, has had no type of playoff success. People know about open heart surgery like this for him, at this point in his career, for him to be the guy that's going to throw LeBron James a life raft, like, you don't expect that. LeBron did exactly what I expected him to do. But if Jeff Green doesn't play, if he's not athletic, if he doesn't get those buckets in transition, if he's not a guy that can switch from 1 to 5, the Cavs don't get this win. Now, people will concentrate on LeBron, but it's about Jeff Green, really, because how are you going to replace Kevin Love? Well, he was actually better than Kevin Love because he could do more things than Kevin Love. He opened up the court with his 3-point shooting, but his ability to be able to get out in transition and finish, and LeBron loves playing with him, and you could see that throughout the game. So LeBron James and the others, but especially Jeff Green, stepped up with the injury to Kevin Love in Game 6, getting the win in 6 and in Game 7 in Boston.
Listen, I'll give Jeff Green all the credit in the world because this this was not a loss of Kevin Love. They anticipated. He starts game 6. Halfway through the first quarter, he goes out. Someone needed to step in. They needed Jeff Green, particularly in game 7, and he answered the bell. He was great, and as a guy that anyone in the league could have had this offseason, a guy that I doubted going into this year, I felt better about some of the other acquisitions they made this offseason than I had Jeff Green. I thought Jay Crowder would play a much bigger role for this team than Jeff Green. Jay Crowder hadn't been on this team in 3 months and never played a good game for him. But the story is, of course, what LeBron did. And LeBron, he can't hear the commentary during the game, but if he could, I'm sure he'd ignore it. Because early in second quarter, what is the line? What we always hear if the Cavs are losing in a basketball game. LeBron's trusting his teammates too much. We heard it didn't take us to halftime to get to, well, Michael Jordan in Game 7s would have done this, would have done that. Acting as if LeBron James isn't the most accomplished Game 7 player we've ever seen in the league. LeBron continuing to trust his teammates despite the fact that they were 1 of 13 from 3 in the first half is what allowed J.R. Smith to make a couple key baskets in the second half. Korver make his 1 key basket. Jeff Green make a critical corner 3 when they were trying to finish the game off in the fourth quarter. Yes, there were other people involved, most notably Jeff Green. But I can say this with full confidence. LeBron's the only guy I've ever seen, and I would argue anyone's ever seen, that could have gotten this team, this collection of players, without Kevin Love the last 2 games to add to it, to this point of the season, where they are once again guaranteed to play in the final game that will be played in the 27-18 season. That's the story to me from last night.
Was this CC LeBron's best game of the season, at least the postseason?
This is the thing. When you have stakes as high as they are in a Game 7, you can pick out other games as far as stats that he could have been better at,
right.
But there's no game that you can put the type of pressure. So you can't just look at the numbers and say, oh, what did he get? Well, he got 35, 15. But it's the pressure, and they got no subs. They got 5 points from their bench. Like when you get 35 and you're only scoring
87,
that's like 50. A normal NBA game, you're scoring 100 to 112 points. And LeBron would have done it. If they had scored that many points, LeBron would have had 50. When you get 35 and you got 87, it speaks to the volume, the impact that you have on the game in this situation. So it's not a matter of numbers. It's when can you do it in the most critical time where it was. He didn't have any type of help. It's the most impressive. It's the only game that really counts. What difference do the other games count?
Well, the Game 7 in Indy, where he went for 40-plus, would be right there, because if they lose that game, but this game,
the stakes are so much higher.
So much higher. It's on the road.
They're on the road.
It's against a team that's undefeated.
Kevin Love's not playing.
Absolutely. I mean, if you remember Game 7 in Indy, it felt like Kevin Love didn't play, but he actually did play in that game. I fully agree. There were 3 games this year where 3 elimination games. 3 games where if the Cavs lose, they go home. And in all 3 games, LeBron answered the bell extraordinarily. He averaged a 40-point triple-double in those 3 games. Game 7, games against Indy, Game 6 and 7 against Boston. But the other part of what happened last night that was, to me, jaw-dropping is LeBron, not only did he play all 48 minutes, but it wasn't even acknowledged as noteworthy until midway through the fourth quarter of the game. There was a very interesting quote. I think Dave McMenamin found it in his article from last night of LeBron in 2015 being asked about how many minutes he can go in a playoff game. And he said 40, 41 is the max. He said, I can go 48 maybe in a regular season game, but in a playoff game when you're exerting that much, 40 or 41 is the most I can play and still give everything to my teammates. There was no question he was going to play at least 46 last night. He played 46 on Friday. 48 hours later, he plays 48, and we don't bat an eye at it. We look at some of the most well-conditioned, best athletes in the world in the Western Conference Series. And what was the story from Game 5? Man, Durant had to play 42 minutes. Draymond had to play 45 minutes. It's not even – were you surprised LeBron went the full 48? I mean, I went into the game thinking.
Well, he was on the stat sheet. He played 48 minutes, but there was 4 or 5 minutes where he was standing watching, backdoor. Jaylen Brown. He was on the court. They couldn't sub for him. All right, they were going to play a short bench. They were shorthanded, but there were times on the court that LeBron James was relaxing on the court, especially on the defensive end.
Sure, but you would agree that's not the same rest as sitting on the bench. Like when you're.
But it's the truth, so I have to say it. Like you could see during the game, because he played 48 minutes, some of his defense and his attention span, it suffered. Like you could see that.
LeBron comes out early on, and he's trying to get the teammates involved. And I think the mindset going in was, well, this is Game 7. LeBron's just going to take over. Enough is enough already with the team. I'm just going to win this, and let's get to the finals. How impressive was it that he really did? And they didn't show a lot for it in the early going, but that he really did try to get open guys involved and see especially without Kevin Love.
That's what you have to do in this situation. He sensed the game. Early in the game, he didn't need to score as much. There was a time there where they couldn't score a bucket. He went out and got him a couple buckets. He realizes, too, what Nick was going to say. I'm going to have to play in the mid-40s minutes, maybe play the whole game. So you can't overexert yourself and score 20 points in the first quarter. If he had done that, he would have been washed in the second half. So
that was the game plan.
Yeah, LeBron, he knows, he senses the game. He never makes up his mind, and it's hard as a great player, and that's one of the things you have to give LeBron for compared to Kobe or Jordan or those other people who are assassins on offense. He never makes up his mind that he's going to just start scoring or start deferring to his teammate. He senses what the game needs, and then he goes about trying to deliver.
I think you alluded to a point there that's a critical one, and I think you can see this now the more you watch LeBron in the playoffs. I think he has almost a counter in his brain about how many times can I drive to the basket all out throughout this game? How many times can I go for the chase down block? And we have seen games where he uses up almost an irrational amount early and then is gassed late because he's playing so many minutes. The ability to play at a high level while saving something for that fourth quarter push is what we saw him do last night, up to and including the final relevant play of the game where he blows past Marcus Morris for the and one layup on what could have been a flagrant foul. Like, it was, to have that type of energy at that moment was remarkable.
All right, well, that concludes the LeBron portion of our program. Tune in tomorrow. We might mention him again. Coming up, can the Houston Rockets pull off the upset in Game 7? Another Game 7 next on First Things First.
At Buffalo Wild Wings, we'll admit that we often go overboard with our limited time offerings. We just can't help ourselves. Take our new signature sampler. For $15, you get wings and 3 shareable options, like fried pickles or cheese curds. Then there's our aptly named over-the-top nachos, a literal mountain of crispy tortilla chips loaded with your choice of pulled pork or honey barbecue chicken, corn, jalapenos, and more. Then top it all off with our new platinum margarita. Go overboard with us today at Buffalo Wild Wings. Wings, beer, sports. Available for a limited time while supplies last. Please drink responsibly.
Back to the show, Warriors and Rockets in a minute, but first, Champions League final, Gareth Bale with a brilliant bicycle kick. That was well done.
This was a really fun game if people were watching it, and this is one of the best, listen, I'm not a soccer expert, but this is one of the best goals I've seen ever, last few years.
Definitely with his non-dominant leg, amazing corner kick, puts it in the back of the goal. My daughter used to be a goalie, so I love those angles of the goalie.
Game 7, Celtics-Cavs. Marcus Smart finds a cutting Al Horford for the alley-oop over Kyle Korver.
This was a big play at the start of the second half. It looked like the Cavs had taken some momentum going into the half. This was a big, start of the fourth quarter, I should say. It was a big play and a hell of a finish by Al Horford, who, when he got the ball in the paint, was dominant, fully dominant.
All right, later in the game, watch it. Terry Rozier gets the steal, sees LeBron, tries to dunk on him. Not a good idea, would be my advice to him.
You either got to try to dunk on him or try to finish with your left hand. Rozier doesn't have a left hand. Tried to finish, both of them from Ohio. Youngstown versus Akron. The Action City takes that one at the Apex.
This was, you saw as soon as LeBron turned the ball over, trying to measure this out and seeing if he could get there.
Yeah, he wasn't worried about the block. He was trying to make sure he shot the ball. The reason why he slowed up was to make sure he didn't throw it to Al Horford. Because they had him on 2-on-1.
Absolutely.
Take away the alley-oop.
All right, and if the Celtics won, this would have been the play of the game. Jason Tatum over LeBron. He didn't stop that one.
And then a little mean mug after. This was a sequence that could have changed the game. Celtics were down 4. It was a Tatum dunk right in LeBron's face. Ooh. And then the next play, Tatum hit a step-back 3 to give Boston a 1-point lead. The Cavs ended up going on a run after that, but this was an amazing play.
Boston fans might be crying today, but when you stop crying, man, let me tell you, the sun is up. This kid is a star.
For real.
They got a problem of riches. Yeah. They got too many good players.
Yeah, man.
Not to be outdone, the Western Conference Finals also granting us a Game 7 showdown. Rockets, Warriors going at it tonight. Winners advance to face the Cavaliers in the finals. How did we get here? Well, Warriors won Game 6, led by the second-half three-point shooting of the Splash Brothers. They will need them to be big again as this one shifts back to Houston now. Here is Warriors head coach Steve Kerr on his team's mindset.
This is it. You know, this is the culmination of everything that's happened the last couple of weeks. So more nerve-wracking, but a lot of fun too. I think I played in 3 of them, if my memory serves me, and it's, you know, they're games that you remember, and they're fun to be part of. It's exciting.
If someone told us we got the 7th game on our home court against Golden State, would you sign up for it? Yeah, we'd sign up right there. So we got what we want. Now it's up to us to go get it. And it'll be rocking, and H-Town will be fired up, and now it's up to us to knock them out.
Look, this is what the Rockets have been preparing for all season. The guys they got, getting the Chris Paul, getting Tucker, getting these guys for a Game 7 against the Warriors, the one team they wanted to beat. They will have to do it without Chris Paul. Chris Paul is questionable for tonight with that hamstring injury. How does this affect the Rockets, and how do they work around it, Nick?
Yeah, listen, Chris Paul might play. If he does play, he won't be anywhere close to 100%. So, like, what's the game plan got to be? What the game plan was the first half, and well, really the entirety of Game 6, just what they could only execute in the first half. You have to stay locked on defense and hit your threes. Like I hate to be too simplistic about it.
That's true.
But they've got it. They got to keep the Warriors under 110, ideally under 105, and they got to hit a minimum of 15 threes. They'd love to have the breakout three-point performance they haven't had yet this series, where they hit 18, 19, 20 threes. Like, can they do it without Chris Paul? They were halfway home to doing it in Game 6 before they played their worst half of the season, only scoring 25 points in the second half. So, yeah, they can. I understand why they're underdogs even though they're at home, because CP3 is not there and because the Splash Brothers woke up in Game 6. But can they do it 100%?
Yeah, I have to go back to what the coach said, because I also heard Harden say that in a press conference as far as he talked about being in the Bahamas, him and Chris Paul and potentially some of the other players. And if you would have told them then, man, okay, we have a Game 7 in Houston, we would take it. Well, not necessarily. You wouldn't have Chris Paul doubtful for the game. So regardless of what they're trying to say, this is not the scenario they would have came up with. Because Chris Paul, this is the story of his NBA career. They wouldn't have included that in the plot. All right? Chris Paul would have been healthy. So they're trying to make the best of a situation. Chris Paul is a superstar. Let's not forget that. Yeah, it's a Game 7. So role players, the pressure's on everyone. You think the role players at Golden State are going to feel more comfortable going on the road? Game 7 pressure is real. We saw that last night in the Cavs game. It leads to poor shooting. So can Houston win? Yes, but this is not the scenario that they wanted this summer when they had Chris Paul, that his career would be a lot similar to the rest of his career. No, it would be able to have their backcourt to be healthy, to be able to counter the firepower that they have for Golden State. So how are they going to do it? They got to get some great minutes from their reserves. Luke Richard, Bob Moute, he's got to play well. He's got to be able to play some extended minutes compared to what he's done the last couple games. Potentially Joe Johnson might have to play 5 to 8 minutes in the game. These are things. Gerald Green, he's got to be good from downtown because that's what he typically does, give them a burst off the bench. So I don't believe Chris Paul is going to play, and if he does play, he's going to be only just a small portion of himself. So these other role players, if Houston wins, it's because these role players, these other minutes that they had to fill, they filled those with some quality minutes, and it had a lot to do with shooting the basketball.
We should also mention that the Warriors are going to be possibly without Andre Iguodala again, which you're probably saying you can't compare him to Chris Paul. The Warriors are 1-2 without him in the lineup. They had been missing him. Do the Rockets have any more of an advantage without Chris Paul because Iggy's not going?
Well, listen, obviously Iggy's an important part of their rotation, an important player, but that the loss of Chris Paul and the loss of Iggy are nowhere comparable. I know the Warriors fans are talking about, hey, we're dealing with it. Calm down. You have all four of your Hall of Famers in the lineup. You have all four of your All-Stars in the lineup. I understand because of the way your team's built, plus the Pat McCaw injury, losing any wing player can be a tough blow on your rotation. But you saw what this team looks like when they're hitting their shots in Game 6 without Andre Iguodala. The loss of Chris Paul is exponentially bigger than the loss of Andre Iguodala. But Chris is right. Like, this is a big Gerald Green game. A guy that any team in the league could have had because they trust him more than Luc Richard. Because Luc Richard, ever since he hurt his shoulder, can't hit a shot. They're not even guarding him when he's out there. So, the loss of Iggy's one thing. The loss of Chris Paul is something entirely different.
All right, we're going to take a break. Coming up was last night the best game of LeBron's career. That's next on First Things First. Welcome back to First Things First. We're going viral. Check out J.R. Smith and teammates with the Eastern Conference trophy after the game last night. JR apparently got his hands on it earlier. Here he is swiping the trophy after the presentation because why not? Because it's there. Because he could.
What's the tweet say? Like it's a complimentary bottle of Hennessy? Man, JR doesn't much matter how well he played, how poorly he played. If they, as Cece would put it, if they get on the winning bus, man, he's going to enjoy his evening.
Man, JR, he's...
Say it. Tell us. Say it.
Man, he's been awful. We shouldn't even let him hold the trophy. Man, he...
In the 3 games in Boston, JR hit 6 shots. My man. But he's still doing the spin move with that trophy. Enjoying life.
Hey, he's on the team till he isn't.
There's a great side-by-side picture of those 3 guys celebrating and LeBron with ice packs over every inch of his legs.
Yeah, because those guys are playing with him. He's going to need his
Exactly right. Exactly right.
All right, time for some stories to start your morning. Des Bryant is still looking for a team to play football on this season. If anyone's wondering, he has an idea. He commented on Instagram posts that he would want to go to the 49ers. That has since been deleted. Own it, Des. CC, would Des be a good fit in San Francisco? You've been saying that for a while.
Yeah, I think he would be a good fit. I think that there might be some challenges from an offensive standpoint. Every time Kyle Shanahan, where he's been, there's always been either quarterbacks or personnel people that said, man, this system is very, very hard. Pierre Garçon is their short and intermediate. Marquise Goodwin is their long threat. They could use Des Bryant with the 49ers.
I was happy when I saw this story because this is the team you have connected him to from the very beginning, saying the best fit, the best need, best opportunity for Dez. The Shanahan thing's real. We heard Matt Ryan talking about how it took him a full year, and Matt Ryan's considered, I would say, a higher level of sophistication football player than Dez. But
just a little bit.
Just a little bit. But if the need's big enough and Dez's want is good enough or great enough, then maybe it's good. Maybe they can make this work.
All right, let's get back to the NBA now. Game 6 of the Western Conference Finals wasn't nearly as competitive as the 2 previous 2. The Warriors ran away with it in the second half, winning 116-86. Nick, what went wrong for the Rockets in Game 6? Did you watch this game, Nick?
Yeah.
Unlike
Game 4, they couldn't withstand the third quarter punch and punchback. They also, in the third quarter, got a brutal whistle, and they let it bother them, and they didn't adjust. Like, the referees, James Harden drove to the basket 21 times. He didn't generate 1 free throw on those, and he didn't adjust. Like, so all of that plus the Splash Brothers going absolutely off in the second half, that's how you turn a 17-point first quarter lead into getting blowed out.
They should have had a bigger lead earlier. And I believe that third quarter, even though you know Golden State the best in the third quarter, that not having that bigger lead, so they couldn't withstand the punch Golden State. You knew Golden State in Game 6 was going to come out. They shot the ball unbelievably, though, Jenna.
All right, let's move on to last night's game. Jeff Green with a solid performance replacing Kevin Love in the starting lineup. Love out in concussion protocol. Green came in, scored 19 points, grabbed 8 rebounds in 42 minutes. CC, how critical was Jeff Green to the Cavs' win last night?
It was everything. Any one of those points, any one of those sequences of events don't happen, and the Cavs are home. They're fishing, golfing, whatever they decide to do in the offseason. It was critical. Where are you going to get that offensive output that Kevin Love was absent of? He gave you all of that. Where are you going to get the rebounds? He gave you all of it, and he gave you some things in transition that Kevin Love cannot give you. Great game by Jeff Green.
And with him in the starting lineup, you can switch everything defensively, or nearly everything, which you can't do with Kevin Love. I don't think Jeff Green's better than Kevin Love. But in Game 6 and 7, Jeff Green played better than I would have expected Kevin Love to play. So in that regard, the Cavs were able to get away with that injury. And what a great moment for a guy who they talked a lot about it. His basketball career was over, it looked like, when he had open heart surgery a few years ago. Now he gets to go to his first NBA Finals.
All right, finally, the future is bright for Boston rookie sensation Jason Tatum. He led all Celtics in scoring with 24 points, scoring more than 20 points in 10 playoff games. First rookie to do that since a guy named Kareem. I'm going to look him up after the show. Cece, how impressed were you with Jason Tatum this postseason?
I thought I was impressed with him after the regular season, where you can argue if he was one of the top 3 definitely on all ballots as far as Rookie of the Year. Was really impressed that first round of the playoffs, because you could see that his shooting and scoring ability was amazing. He got better than the regular season. The first round, he got better in round 2 and in Eastern Conference Finals. So impressed how when the stakes went higher, he got better. And he showed you some portions of his game that we didn't see during the regular season. Now, he's got to work a little bit on his defense, got to get his body a little bit stronger. But 2 years ago, this kid was playing high school basketball. Yep. I mean, he was trying to get ready for the state high school tournament. So very impressive. Looking forward to watching more basketball. Jason Tatum. If you're a fan of basketball, because he does a lot of things fundamentally right, you have to be a fan of Tatum.
Man, when he puts on about 15 more pounds, he's going to be even more of a problem, because the only weakness I can see with him right now, aside from regular some rookie inconsistencies, is he can get back down. He's going to be playing bigger guys out on the wing. You saw LeBron take advantage of that. Other guys will be able to as well. But every rookie, that's the smallest they'll ever be. Like, he will get bigger. Look at how thin Anthony Davis was to how bulky he is now. Here's the complete list of rookies to score more points in the playoffs than Jason Tatum. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and that's it. And that's by 1 point. He was 1 made basket away from scoring more points in this postseason than any rookie ever. He played the second most minutes of any rookie ever. He's scored more playoff points than any under 21-year-old ever. Like, to do this where you have to be the guy because of injuries to your team, and to do it repeatedly round after round, it is now a real discussion. If you could have any of these 3 rookies, Simmons, Mitchell, Tatum, I think if you polled 100 people, all 3 of them would get 25, 30-plus votes. Like, it is a real question who is the best of this rookie class moving forward. He asserted himself into that conversation when in the regular season he was probably a clear 3rd in that conversation.
Another tip of the cap to Danny Ainge, just saying.
Yes.
But I think equally as important was how he wasn't thrown by the moment. He had to go up against LeBron James in a Game 7 with the entire basketball world watching him, and the moment was never too big for him. It never felt that way this entire postseason. The whole team carried themselves that way, but led by Jason Tatum, which was really impressive to see.
Last year, he played 27 games for Duke. This year, last night, I think it was the 99th game, 98th game last night. Like, very impressive. So I wasn't shocked that he played that well last night, because I've seen him play all during the season. I've seen him play in the playoffs, and he continued that last night. And, Jenny, you mentioned a good point, and that's the pressure, the stakes. What other rookie? Because we saw Ben Simmons, first round of the playoffs against Miami, swear up and down. Nick was like, oh, my God, it's Magic Johnson. All right, this guy right here. Second round, not so much Magic. What was they called? Tragic Johnson.
Tragic Johnson.
Yes, all right. Something Simmons, whatever type of word you want to put on it before that, his game didn't keep rising because he's got holes in his game. The #1 pick, Markelle Fultz, didn't see him in the playoffs, but mop-up time. So when you're looking at Tatum being the number 3 pick, Ainge getting the player that they wanted, when they had the number 1 selection, getting him at number 3, and seeing the overall results, you can be nothing but pleased in Tatum.
And when you're talking about the Celtics' future, I understand, the future's so bright, so bright. The reason it's so bright more than anything else, more than Kyrie coming back, more than Hayward coming back, more than the draft capital, is Jason Tatum. You want to win an NBA championship, there's one rule that 95% of champions have applied to, or it's applied to them. You got to have a top 5 player in the league. As good as Kyrie is, he's never been a top 5 player. I don't know if he ever will be. I know Hayward won't be. This kid has a chance to be.
Yeah, I think it's the totality of it all, though. Him, Jaylen Brown, Rozier.
Oh, of course.
And we know how good Gordon Hayward is, and if you're going into a series, you're going to need Kyrie. He might not never be in the top 5, but the totality of that coaching this team with having a closer, having another wing player in Gordon Hayward, they have a phenomenal future.
I fully agree with that.
All right, let's get back to LeBron James now. He played game 100 of the season last night. Every regular season game, every postseason game, and last night, every second of the game, going 35, 15, and 9. Pretty classic LeBron. He also did all this without his star teammate, Kevin Love, who missed Game 7 because he's in concussion protocol. While this is his 8th straight trip to the NBA Finals, this one might have been his most impressive. Here's LeBron on the team's long year.
I guess this is the last chapter for our team in this season. It's been a whirlwind. It's been Cedar Point. Sorry for you guys that don't know much about Cedar Point, but it's been a roller coaster, and it's been good. It's been bad. It's been, it's been roses. It's been thorns in the roses. It's been everything that you can ask for. And I've always said this has been one of the most challenging seasons I've had. And like I told you guys, you guys are around us every day. Right before the break, right before the trade deadline, I kind of reset. Didn't know if we were going to make trades or not. Didn't know what we were going to do with our team, but I kind of just reset my mindset on saying, okay, this is the season, and let's try to make the most of it. And that's what's gotten me to this point, gotten our team to this point.
Multiple times throughout this season, we have gone through the various formations of what this Cavs team looked like. There was the preseason, then there was the beginning, then there was the trade deadline, then there was this.
LeBron last night said the finals would be the 6th season within the season.
And that's basically what it was. And I think after the trade, when we saw the players they got, we all thought, well, everyone except for Nick here, thought that this was going to be an uphill battle. If he could take this group of guys into the postseason, whatever they did after that would have been impressive enough. Do you think that getting the Cavs to the NBA Finals, CC, was the greatest achievement of LeBron's career, knowing the team that he sees when he looks down this bench?
I can't say the greatest achievement of his career, because you have to realize I'll just take his biggest accomplishments, and that's the 3 NBA championships and how they came. The first one came after LeBron. We wouldn't even be having some of the conversation we had if he didn't have the series against the Dallas Mavericks, all right, in his first season in Miami. So the biggest thing that he did was win his first championship in going to Miami. That's the number one thing that he did. Then he was able to follow that up with another championship. So he wasn't just one of the great players only with one championship. What he did in the Cleveland series against Golden State the first time was monumental, with Kevin Love and Kyrie being hobbled. Then in 16, they come back, win the championship down 3-1. That's the greatest accomplishment of his career, all right? Because going against that team, the best team in the NBA based on record, the superstars that they have, him being outmanned and winning that's the biggest accomplishment. So this is a tremendous accomplishment, getting to the finals. But nothing's greater than those other 3 championships, topped off with the championship in 2016.
Listen, the reason this is a discussion this morning is because Jeff Van Gundy, who I adore, was adamant about this, that this is the greatest accomplishment of LeBron's career. And while this is an amazing accomplishment, and I firmly believe he's the only player we've ever seen that could have gotten this team this year to the NBA Finals, C's right. Like, when we're listing LeBron accomplishments, amazingly, I'm not certain this goes in the top 5. Number 1 is the 3-1 down to the 73-win Warriors and going 41-8-11, 41-16-7, 27-11-11 in those 3 games. Like, nothing tops that, down 3-1 in 2016. I will put a close second the Game 6 in Boston, the year they won their first title. The most pressure he's ever been under at any point in his career. the whole blueprint on the line. They're going to trade Chris Bosh. The whole Heatles will be a failure. He goes 45-15-5 against a championship-level Celtics team. The 48 special in Detroit when he was 22 years old. Game 7 against the San Antonio Spurs team where he goes 37-12-4 and hits the game-clinching jump shot. And then, it's not just the wins. The series against Golden State that Cece alluded to, games 2 and 3 of that series to take a 2-1 lead on the Warriors, going 40-14-10 in average in those 2 games. That's LeBron's top 5. Now, if he were to win a championship with this group, this, of course, elevates to even with the 2016 season, maybe greater than the 2016 season.
Yeah, also go up there with Moses Part in the Red Sea.
Okay, I know that you find it impossible to happen, and I think it's very unlikely that it'll happen. But what it is already is one of the greatest examples of sustained endurance and greatness. And I think none of it is better encapsulated than how the game ended. Like, if we can show it, the final minute and a half of the game, the assist to George Hill, and then the and one on Marcus Morris where he gets, like, this pass there, I don't know how you make that pass, but he made it, and that gives them a 7-point cushion, trusting George Hill to finish this play when they've been walking it up every time. And then you've played 47 of 48 minutes. You do that. He got flagrant fouled and goaltended and still made the bucket in the 48th minute, running past Marcus Morris to clinch the game. That's a level of endurance and fitness we've never seen from an NBA player, year 15 or year 2.
I wasn't sitting next to you in 2016, but I can't imagine either of you that the way we've talked about his role players and his supporting cast makes it sound, and I watched almost as many games as I possibly could this season, that LeBron was the only guy in the court, that LeBron single-handedly won. JR had no points the other night. There were nights where the rest of his team didn't score in double digits, and he scored as many. Tell me how that is not so incredibly impressive with teams like the Sixers and the Celtics who had so much, uptick and so much promise, yet somehow the Cavs are the last one standing in the East.
Yeah, I'd like to stay away from the other teams because the Cavs are, I would say, in the NBA, there's at least 3 teams better than them in the East and probably 4 in the West.
Better than the Cavs?
Better than the Cavs.
Okay.
All right? The Sixers are better than the Cavs. The Celtics, even though they're at home, they're a better team than the Cavs. Toronto was a better team than the Cavs. The only they just didn't have LeBron. LeBron was in Toronto's head. Philadelphia was a young team. Boston was out 2 of their superstars. All right, so this team, LeBron's taken to the finals. I mean, I couldn't dream of a scenario that he could get this team to the finals. I didn't think he would be able to get through Boston, through Philadelphia, and potentially Toronto. So it's hard to imagine a superstar playing with worse talent.
Well, and to answer your question, Jenna, the reason that 2016, I think in most people's eyes, with respect to Van Gundy, trumps this, is who they were playing.
Yeah.
They were playing the greatest team ever with a unanimous MVP, down 3-1 in the finals that no one has ever overcome before. Cece, when you say there's 4 teams or 3 teams better than them in the East, well, I mean, if you take LeBron off the team, there's 25 teams better than them in the league.
Based on the 82-game schedule. All right, it's a compliment. Try to take it as that. All right, they were the 4th best team. They were the 4th seed, not for some injury reason, because that's how good they were. But to be able to overcome that as a 4th seed, LeBron's never taken a 4th seed to the finals before.
Right, it's only the 5th 4th seed or lower.
So it tells you the totality of it. You say, man, which team would you rather have? I probably would have taken, going into the playoffs, I would have taken Philadelphia first. Well, Chris, you can draft any other team. I would have taken Toronto second, Boston third, and I would have taken Cleveland 4th. Based on what I've seen, all right? I try to be objective, and that's the Cavs team that I saw. I didn't pick them to make it to the finals. I'm not upset about that. Not upset at all.
All right. Coming up, drop it. Drop a mic or something. Coming up, a former Seahawks player takes a shot at Pete Carroll. Wow. Next on First Things First. Welcome back to First Things First on this Memorial Day. Former NFL head coach Eric Mangini is with us. Hey, Coach, thanks for spending part of your holiday weekend with us.
Couldn't be
Much
anywhere
appreciated.
else. I'm excited to be here.
Where else would you want to be than right here?
Good to see you.
Right here.
That's what we want to hear from everyone that sits there. Hey, Coach, you remember that other Super Bowl controversy involving Malcolm Butler? You know, the one where the Seahawks didn't run the ball with Marshawn Lynch. Instead, Butler intercepted a Russell Wilson pass on the goal line, leading to a Patriots Super Bowl victory. You remember that. At the time, many questioned the decision by Pete Carroll. We did, sure, but so did some of his players. That, according to former Seahawks defensive end Cliff Averill.
Sometimes it's tough because two is better than one, obviously. So you think about what could have happened. If we win that Super Bowl, I think we probably would have won another one within the 2 years that went by. But I do think that, the team would have bought in more into what Coach Carroll was saying instead of, going the opposite way of, hey, this is what we thought the foundation of the team was, and that's not what happened in that particular play. So I think guys started kind of questioning him a little more so than actually following his lead if we would have won that Super Bowl. It's just the fact that we were so close and we weren't able to get it. So I think a lot of guys got turned off by the message.
Well, that's interesting. So whether or not he has a legitimate gripe there, what happens when players first start questioning a coach? Is that the kind of thing that bleeds into, say, the next season, and then all of a sudden you start not trusting your head coach?
Yeah, trust is critical. The players need to believe that, one, you know what you're doing, and two, that you have their best interests at heart, and you're going to put them in a position to be successful. And then coaches need to know that players are going to do everything they possibly can to take advantage of the things that you're doing for them and to execute the game plan. I think these comments are unfair. I mean, when you look at that game, Marshawn Lynch had been stopped earlier on the first drive of the second half on a 3rd and 1. Cliff Averill got knocked out of the game with a concussion. These guys give up 14 points in the 4th quarter. And it's when you look at it as a full body of work, this is the play that everybody's going to come back to. But there were a lot of things in that game that could have easily changed the outcome. So to say that is the one defining decision that's totally going to break down trust, I don't think that's totally fair.
And a lot of times, Coach is right. As an offense or defensive player, you don't know what the actual strategy is. So as a defensive player, you have to be careful suggesting what plays to run, because an offensive player, the play that they called, it was a good play. The reason why, New England, they were playing a goal line 50 front. They had brought in a substitution. New England is one of the toughest teams to run at in short yardage or goal line situation. Everyone knows this. So they play a 50-man front. They got all the offensive line covered. They also take out a safety, and they play a nickel 50. So Belichick knows that if you want to throw the ball, you're going to throw the ball against my best secondary. I'm going to put a nickel back in there. And also, if you're going to run it, you're going to run against my best front. I'm going to put a 50 front in. I'm going to play Malcolm Butler off, a play that they had rehearsed in practice. They gave up a touchdown, same play in practice, the week of the Super Bowl. They go over it and tell him, this could cost us the ball game. So there's a certain amount of preparation that the defensive players in Cliff Averill, they don't understand that. They don't understand there's a 50 front, and if you're going to throw it on 2nd down, that's the best time to do it. Now, I would have thrown to a better receiver. I wouldn't throw to a special teams player. I would have thrown it to one of the other guys. So I understand what he's saying, but he doesn't know what he's talking about because he's not involved in the offense. The defense that they were facing, this was one of the better plays to call. Now, Russell's got to throw the ball better. The receiver's got to run a better route. It's called execution.
So here's we've talked about this play a lot, Chris, you and I. I don't think I've ever talked about it with you, but you've been adamant on that point that you can't run in that spot. That the Patriots, we have talked about how the Patriots, Belichick from the first day of training camp said, I want to develop a defense that is a goal line front with nickel defensive backs. And that they practiced it all year putting it in, and the first time they ever used it in a game, reportedly, was that play right there. You're saying, no, that was Peter King wrote about that. That's okay, not
well,
we
ran it several times, called goal line 3 corners. So if they put in 3 wide receivers, we put in the goal line defense with three defensive backs. And we ran it successfully against Indianapolis a bunch of times where they were going to try to run the ball in that situation. Mm-hmm. And we shut them down. And look, against that front, it's smart to pass. And if the wide receiver, the underneath player, had done a good job of clearing out, it would have been a walk-in touchdown. And to do it in that situation was the smartest situation because it allows them to save the tight end or the timeout for third down. So now you can either run the ball on third down or fourth down, as opposed to having to take the timeout after that play.
Yeah, they had a slot receiver to that side. He gets jammed, so they were going to run a pick
right
play.
Here, you can see him
all
get
right,
jammed
Browner
up.
jams him. So Butler is able to get a beeline on the ball compared to getting a rub. So Browner makes an outstanding play because he's prepared. He knows they're going to set a pick and not going to let the guy off. So you have to give people credit when they make amazing plays or adjustments.
The point that I was leading to, even though evidently I erroneously believed a legendary Peter King story, which my apologies. I
tell him this all the time.
What?
Even some of the people that have a dependable reputation, you have to watch some of the information because I saw your eyes blink. I knew that wasn't the first time.
Well, no, as soon as I saw your face,
500th time.
Okay, fair enough. But the point that I'm trying to make, that was leading to, is it's almost irrelevant if, like, because the problem in the locker room was the belief that they ran that play because they wanted Russell Wilson to have the glory rather than Marshawn Lynch. Like, that was what they had the meeting in Hawaii about. That was what a lot of the players believed. And what I took away from the Cliff Averill thing is, even if none of that's true, even if it's the right play call, even if it just wasn't executed, even if there's no way to, in the heat of the moment, in the 20 seconds between a play, do the politics in your head of who do we want to have the glory in the Super Bowl, if enough players on the team believe it, it can cause problems for you as a coach. If enough players on the team believe it, it can be a fork in the road moment. Because I do agree with him on one point. If they win that Super Bowl, then I think the next year, Cam Chancellor gets his contract instead of holding out and missing 4 games where they start 2-2. Like, I think there's a butterfly effect if they're a 2-time Super Bowl champion and if they don't have the dissension in the locker room that keeps it makes it easier for Pete Carroll to keep it together.
I'm like Coach Mangini. I don't believe you, Nick, because as a professional, when I get my assignment, defense coordinator, my position coach tells me at my assignment, I ain't thinking, man, Pete Carroll, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go about 75% because he cost me a Super Bowl. All right? So you're still thinking about what you have to do. I don't believe you. I believe that every person is trying to take care of business for themselves. I believe Cliff Averill is saying this now because he can't play any more football. Seattle, he can't pass the physical. So now he's looking back on things. I've been a part of many team meetings where the players said idiotic things. Hey, guys, man, the coaches don't want what's best for us. Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't it be in the best interest of the coaches to win another Super Bowl? So I've been to a lot of these meetings. A lot of it's just BS, Coach.
I just can't imagine Pete Carroll's on the headset going, look, we got to make sure Russell Wilson gets the credit here. Let's design this play so that he scores. You just want to get the ball in the end zone, and you're going to the best play.
I agree with you. I just want to be clear
so
you guys understand, the audience understands. I'm not saying I believe Pete Carroll's playing politics with the Super Bowl. I'm saying it is clear from all the reporting around it that many of the players on the team did. And the question is how much impact does that have on them moving forward? See, you're saying
it's easy to make excuses. Like, it's easy to make. You know why we didn't win another Super Bowl? You know why I didn't win one? Because I didn't fucking win one. That's the reason why. Like, we didn't play well enough. Like, we weren't good enough. The teams are on. In the critical situation, we didn't come up with the plays. That's why we didn't win. There's no excuses. And the conspiracy. Darrell Bevel. You know something, Darrell? We want Russ to be the hero. Really? In real time? Like, that's what we're going to do? Compared to, they faced a competent defense. They faced a genius on the defensive side. They won. Their players reacted in real time better. You know, stop making excuses.
All right, let's take a break there. Coach, we'll see you a little bit later on in the show. Coming up, do the Rockets have a chance tonight if Chris Paul can't go? That's next on First Things First. Welcome back here to First Things First. We are now joined by NBA analyst Sarah Kustok.
Good to see you,
Sarah.
Thank you guys for having me. I
Enjoying these
appreciate it.
playoffs as much as we are enjoying these playoffs?
Oh, I thought you were going to say as much as Nick.
Oh, Nick is on a
After
whole
last
other
night,
level.
I
After
felt
last
like it
night.
was,
a whole
it was
other
going to be
level.
fun to see him. But
Sarah, my dad texted me at 5 o'clock this morning and said, "Is he in a good mood? Is he happy?" I didn't even ask him who he was talking about.
An understatement.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's talk about the other series. The Western Conference Finals is coming down to a series deciding Game 7. That after the Warriors took out the Rockets in Game 6. Rockets have been preparing for this showdown for a year now. It's why they got Chris Paul and P.J. Tucker and even CC's guys, Luke Mbamute. And don't forget, the game is in Houston. But the Warriors aren't concerned. they're the defending champs, and Steve Kerr's never been worried about a thing a day in his life. Sarah, what do the Rockets need to do to win Game 7 against the Warriors tonight?
How can they get Chris Paul healthy? To me is the big question. And I know he's questionable. I doubt that he'll play. Even if he does, he may be at 60, 70%. He changes the entire complexion of what this team can do. And I know the Golden State Warriors are a third-quarter team, but I think Game 6 showed us just how much Houston needs a guy like Chris Paul, his leadership, his ability to take over offensively, defensively in that second half.
Well, and the problem for Game 6, though, also was that when Harden wasn't getting the calls and his shot stopped falling, they were only down 7 at the end of 3. And it was the fourth quarter that they got blown out of the building. They had no counterpunch. They had no answer to the Warriors' haymaker.
But to me, that's where Chris Paul comes in. And that's what we've seen throughout the duration, especially in Game 4 and Game 5. He's the guy who comes in, takes over, settles down the offense. James Harden has struggled. I mean, this is a three-point shooting team in the Houston Rockets, and James Harden has struggled so mightily from the three-point line.
So how much is on the line tonight for James Harden?
I think a lot is on the line for James Harden, but to me, he has not really deviated from what we've expected of him. He's expected to be the regular season MVP. I think he had a tremendous season. He's had some big games for the Houston Rockets, but to me, he hasn't shown to be the elite level player that will take over in the postseason. And Chris Paul alleviated some of that pressure from him while he was playing. But to me, this is it. It's going to say a lot. And we heard James Harden say it. We heard Mike D'Antoni say it. We've got one game here in our building to go to the NBA Finals. Well, see if you can prove that that's worth it.
Yeah, and we've seen the other superstars, either that being Durant for a short period of time, or we see what LeBron does when his players are absent. So this could be a career changer for James Harden. He has not played great in this playoffs. He has not played great. Had a very good first half. Finally got off of that over streak from the three-point line. And you guys had mentioned, no, this has not been he's been MVP during the regular season, but this has not been an MVP playoff for him. He needs to be able to match whoever goes off for Golden State, because we know one of them guys is going for 30 tonight. And you have to have James Harden to be able to counteract that shot for shot or playmake for playmake. If your shot is not going, once he gets into the paint, either being distribute an alley-oop or kick the ball back out for some open three looks. And when they go on those big runs, because we don't have Chris Paul, as you mentioned, Sarah, we need James Harden to settle the team down. Chris Paul doesn't have to be on the court for Harden to be the calming influence on a team. When they go on these outstanding runs, you need someone to set, let's call a play. Let's touch the ball 5 times before we get a quick shot up, and we didn't see that in game number 6.
Listen, Harden's been extraordinary in game 1s of each of these playoff series, A triple-plus performances in all the game 1s, and about a BB+ performance in the ensuing games. What does this mean for Harden? If they win this game tonight, he will have to have been brilliant. And if they win this game tonight, then Harden will be discussed in a way that, despite going to be the MVP this year, he is never discussed as possibly the second best player in the league. No. Like, set LeBron aside. We know LeBron's the best player in the league. KD gets discussed as second best player. Some people say Steph. I heard some people at the end of the regular season saying, is it Anthony Davis? James Harden last year, people are asking, was it Russell Westbrook? Harden never gets considered in that air, even though he's going to win the MVP. If they win the game tonight and he's brilliant, people absolutely will look at him that way.
Do you believe that, though? Do you believe, like, think about, and I know LeBron's on a whole nother level, we have expectations when the moment matters most that he's going to come through. I feel that way about Kevin Durant, about Steph Curry.
Do you feel that way about James Harden?
I don't.
Right.
I don't.
Is that why? Do you think that's
but I don't feel that way about Steph. I don't feel that way about Steph, and I'm unsure about the only guy that I know in a big game is going to show up is LeBron. KD, I know, is going to be able to get his shots. Like, there's no question about it. Steph has hot and cold games in the playoffs. We've seen that repeatedly. Like, Anthony Davis was building towards that. He just hasn't played enough big playoff games.
Those other guys got championships, though. We saw Durant do it in the face of LeBron James last year. We have seen Steph over the last 4 years be able to perform, not necessarily to the regular season success, but he performed superstar level in the playoffs. So We haven't seen Harden, and we don't have the expectation. We don't have the expectation for Harden that we have on those other players. And when he doesn't play well, he doesn't get the criticism. I don't see Steph going 0 for 22 and us not being after his head. Durant, if he was 0 for 22, imagine the criticism that would have gone with that.
Don't you think we would have been if they hadn't won those 2 games? I think the only reason that Harden got something of a pass on that 0 for 22 stretch is when he was 0 for 20 from the midway point of Game 4 and the entirety of Game 5, and they won those 2 games. Otherwise, I think people would have been after him.
How long were we talking about Steph being hurt, though? If he was hurt, like when he was missing shots, the big question and dialogue was, oh, is he still hurt? He's not playing. With James Harden, we never point to anything like that. I just think, and to your point about them having a championship, their mentality is entirely different. And I think for Steve Kerr, for these guys trying to navigate how to maintain their level of greatness and still chasing where they want to get to, and I think that's why tonight they're going to flip the switch of knowing exactly what they need to do to get to the point they want to.
And you have to realize the totality of the situation. If you win this game, you're facing one of the weakest teams ever in the championship.
Absolutely.
So this is a championship right here. This is a championship trophy tonight's game.
And I think the thing we can draw a direct line to with Harden is he is the most prolific foul drawer, free throw getter we've seen in modern NBA history from a non-center. Like, take Shaq out of it, and he's basically the most prolific guy at drawing fouls throughout the regular season. And what we have seen repeatedly in the playoffs, even though I think some of the criticism has been a little unfair, is as the whistle gets tighter and they're letting them play a little looser, he doesn't adjust so great. We saw that in the game 6. Like, if he's not getting those calls going to the rim, a lot of the impact is muted to a degree.
When we judge the Heisman Trophy, we judge all these things, but we always say, does he have a Heisman moment? James Harden has not had that MVP Heisman moment as it comes to the NBA. And tonight could be that moment for his career.
And quickly, does that change his reputation, in your opinion?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, if they win,
because it gets him a ring.
So you
get his jersey really retired at the strip club.
You're all on my side with this.
Get his jersey retired somewhere other than the strip club.
No. I didn't have to go there. Sarah, we're going to see you a little bit later on in the show.
Yep.
Things are going great.
Absolutely.
Coming up, did the Celtics blow a chance at the finals? That's next on First Things First. Let's go.